Hey everyone, it's Froggy, and I'm back again with another episode of Requiescence. So I'm just going to go ahead and start. His lips curled in a light grin. He gives me a knowing nod before turning around briskly, striding off in Carol's direction. At the same time, the man Carol sent off earlier comes rushing back from the darkness of the tunnel. He runs up to Cal and Carol, wearing a pale-faced expression that unnerves me a little bit.
He's right, sir. The door won't move.
Carol stays quiet for a few seconds before his lips press together in a thin, displeased line. Explain to me how you learned that this would happen. He addressed his demand to Cal, his voice brusque. And I will. You deserve an explanation. But let's gather everyone and start heading out first. It's better to not waste more time than we have to. Carol doesn't reply, but instead sharply gestures at his men with one hand, and they gather together behind him.
Up you go.
The gray-haired man grabs Damien, who's been sitting and brooding to himself this whole time, and hauls him to his feet. I hear his disgruntled muttering as he brushes himself off and stalks over to the corner, his arms folding irritatedly over his chest. Can you fix this mess that the brat made? Carol motions over towards the layer of ice covering the way forward, his lips curled distastefully. Cal glances around briefly, as if he hadn't noticed the ice before. Taking a step towards it, he crouches down to swipe a gloved finger across the surface. He did this? Oh my, already getting in your good books, is he? Cal sounds delighted as he lets out a bright chuckle, while Carol gives an annoyed hiss. Get rid of it.
Yes, master.
With a patronizing grin, Cal waves a hand towards the sheet of ice, and a thin cone of magical flame starts to lick out over the path. Soon, all of what I'd conjured melts away, leaving behind only damp earth. As I watch, I can't help but feel envious of his obvious power. He doesn't seem to be using any energy at all. How old a mage can he be to have harnessed his strength? Shaking my head, I take a deep breath, smoothing my hair back from my forehead with my palms. It's still hard to believe that I narrowly escaped being executed only due to Cal's appearance. But then again, since I entered the cathedral, everything has happened so suddenly that it's hard to believe any of it. So I'm stuck traveling with an egotistical swordsman, a mage hater, and some eccentric powerful elementalist. If we're heading deeper into the cathedral, though, there's a chance that I'll be able to find whatever Gideon was looking for. And if I can do that, I'll be able to finally head back home without this burden on my heart. Until then, though, I'll have to find some way to deal with these men. Carol and Cal are already arguing as they wait for Carol's men to pack up. And Damien, he's gotten involved in the argument too, and I can see him bristling as he grumbles at Carol. I already miss the peaceful silence that I had when I was traveling alone. At the same time, though, I feel safer knowing that I have some people to travel with, even if they're all a little volatile. Mage brat, we're leaving! Carol's sharp voice rings out towards me as he impatiently motions from where he stands by the group. I'm coming. Listen to me, obeying this guy as happily as if he's my own mother, right after he tried to kill me? I guess it's not really like I have a choice. Talk about a bizarre turn of events. Taking a deep breath, I hurry to where everyone's gathered, and we head off into the darkness of the tunnel ahead. The tunnel eventually leads back into a stone hallway, cold and dark. We continue on in stark silence, save for the thudding of many heavy boots. One of Carol's men carries a torch, and its soft crackling also chimes through the thick air. I move over to Damien's side as soon as I can. We may not be friends, but at least I can trust him more than the others. Carol and Cal walk a little bit ahead of us, and Carol's men are surrounding us on all sides, However, a few of them look friendlier than others. In particular, the gray-haired man, and the one with the light spiky hair stays close to us.
Thank the gods that mage came when he did. I tried to do what I could, but there's no reasoning with Karot when he's like that.
He offers me an apologetic look, running a hand through his ruffled hair. I can still barely believe what happened.
We'll do our best to make sure he doesn't try to pull it again. And hopefully he'll be distracted by his arch enemy over there anyway. I'm Lake, by the way. And this dashing fellow is Riz.
Riz. He motions to the gray-haired man, who bows playfully. I'm Camille.
Camille, huh? My pleasure.
He winks boldly at me, and I reflexively avert my eyes. And I reflexively revert my gaze. I'd say it was my pleasure too, but I'm not so sure in these circumstances. Who's the one over there? Damien nods towards the older-looking man walking near Call.
Him? He's Althar, our crossbowman who knows far too much about everything, including magic, to the boss's displeasure.
I watch Althar's back curiously. He seems to be exchanging quiet words with Call, who nods now and then. Does he know him? Before I have a chance to ask either of the men any more questions, Call's strong voice suddenly echoes back to us.
With the cathedral's magic in such a dangerous state, the illusions and creatures have become much more unpredictable.
They may have only been annoyances before, but now they're very real threats.
And how do you propose to deal with these threats?
Carol's cold tone makes Call break into a wry grin.
I told you. It's necessary that we stick together.
With our varied skill sets, we can manage much more easily. Besides, Carol, haven't you always secretly dreamed of working with me? At that, the very air around Carol seems to darken. I don't think I've ever seen so much hate in a man's eyes. Just because my men fear you doesn't mean I do.
Keep talking like that and I'll slit your throat the moment you turn your back.
Call clicks his tongue chidingly, giving a sigh like an exasperated parent.
Tch.
Don't forget now, my eyes are everywhere. Carol tenses suddenly, turning his head in the opposite direction. Eyes? What is he talking about? I know he's a powerful mage, but there aren't many spells that provide clairvoyance without a huge number of components.
Enough cryptic rubbish. Tell us what's happening to the cathedral.
Damien interrupts the brief silence, glaring at Call and Carol. Call blinks, glancing over his shoulder in Damien's direction, as if he just now acknowledged Damien's existence.
Huh? And who might you be?
I'm Damien, but that's neither here nor there. I want to know about how you found out about the magic crumbling business. His tone is firm as he rests his hands on his hips while we walk. Call's surprise seems to fade after a moment, but he gazes towards Damien for a few seconds before turning his head away. Well, sir, I did promise you an explanation. He smooths his hair back with his hand and inhales deeply.
You see, it started when I was deeper in the tunnels, pursuing Geralt.
Pursuing him?
I still don't understand. Why was Geralt running away from Call when he had so many men at his disposal? Unless Call really is that powerful. Indeed, we go way back, you see. Geralt says nothing to confirm or deny Call's words, and just broods in an irritated silence. Not sparing him a glance, Call continues. However, I wasn't expecting to encounter him at the cathedral. We came here entirely independently. So imagine my surprise when I see a familiar, pouting face from 8 or so years ago, timed perfectly to impede on my research progress.
Impede? I was here long before you were, idiot mage.
That's debatable.
Besides, you're just here to loot. I'm here to uncover the secrets of this place. After dismissing Kuralt's words, with a wave of his hand, Call continues his story.
Naturally, I wanted to get rid of him and his pests, so that I could continue my work in peace.
And so, the last few days have been rather full of conflict, one might say.
Did he really just call us pests?
I don't mean any offense, but
I hesitate, trying to figure out how exactly to convey my words.
aren't you one man against Kuralt's many?
To my surprise, it's Kuralt who throws a glare over his shoulder at me and hisses out a reply. Call is a feared mage throughout much of the land.
His power is far greater than yours will ever be.
Now, no need to bring flattery into this, Kuralt.
Besides, don't put down the little aspiring boy here. I was once a hot-headed, impatient, unskillful young man, and look where I've gotten. What's with these two? That fireball from earlier may have been impressive, but if all of Kuralt's men had charged at Call at once, surely they would have captured him. Unless he has some sort of power that I don't know about.
Quit your incessant egotistical prattling and finish your damn explanation.
Damien interjects again, clearly impatient. I can't blame him. Their bantering never seems to end. But Call doesn't seem to mind, and just gives a light nod of his head.
As I was saying, I was in the process of chasing Kuralt's men back towards the entrance.
However, as I entered an intersection of paths, I noticed something odd. Call's expression darkens somewhat, the line of his brow deepening in a frown.
Doors that were previously shut had begun to decay.
He says the word slowly and reluctantly, as if it left a bad taste in his mouth. The stone itself is melting away, in odd and unnatural patterns. Beyond that, I encountered a specter roaming the halls, creatures normally kept caged in by the magic of the doors. Its form was full of wild and violent magic, unlike the ones that I've witnessed in the past. They were usually calm and contained, lifelike images meant to mimic reality.
But this creature, once, I think, it had the form of a man. But its shape had twisted into something more like a beast, with wide jaws and claws for hands, eyes bulging unnaturally.
I tried to picture what Call's describing in my head. Luckily, I didn't encounter anything like that on my way here. And unlike any of the other illusionary creatures, the beast lunged as soon as it saw me. Call pauses hesitantly, then gives a quick shake of his head.
Well, after I dispatched it, I retraced my steps to look for other signs of unstable magic.
And sure enough, it was seeping throughout the cathedral like cracks spreading through thin ice.
You must have seen traces of it, but not known what it was.
He's right. Those patches on the door that I saw, and on the monk. Those were the same signs that he must be talking about. I noticed those odd splotches on some of the beasts that I had to fight on the way here. Damien shoots me a pointed glare, then redirects his gaze towards Call. But there were other odd signs too. We passed a strange chamber with windows that seemed to show a forest outside, just before the second altar. But I couldn't tell if the cathedral was just trying to play tricks on us or not. Makes you paranoid, this place. Call gives a curt nod. The magic here really is normally very clever, from my research.
The cathedral once had a set structure, one that was formed from magical rooms and mimicked forests, all artificially created and attached to each other.
But for it to put a forest in such an odd place, so close to the entrance... Well, It certainly suggests the magic isn't working how it's supposed to.
So, as time goes on, you think the cathedral structure will become more and more chaotic?
Again, Call dips his head in grave confirmation of my words. From what I've heard, there was originally a message and lesson to be found in the journey through here. But now, I fear it would all soon be lost. When Call grows quiet, no one else speaks up. The only sound is our footsteps echoing quietly in the dim tunnel. At last, Coralt inhales quietly and grimaces, speaking in his usual cool tone.
If what you say is true, then I don't know if we'll be able to make it out in time.
I've never gotten to the third altar, but I assume that there are at least several more. Coralt shoots Call a flat, questioning look. The red-haired mage doesn't acknowledge his glance, but instead lifts his shoulders in a gentle shrug. I haven't ventured past the third altar either. I doubt we've seen the last of them, though.
Assuming the speed of the decaying magic doesn't increase too rapidly, we should be able to escape before the structure itself crumbles around us.
He breaks into a sudden sadistic smirk, as if a terribly funny thought had popped into his head.
But the magic itself might have some effect on us while we're here. Who knows? Coralt might even awake one morning with some sort of magical talent.
What? I'd been lost in my thoughts, trying to remember what the number meant, and then I suddenly bump against Coral's back. He stopped walking and is standing dead still. The rest of his men quickly stop too. Call walks a few more paces forward before he pauses to turn around questioningly. Before I have a chance to ask what's going on, Coralt abruptly unsheathes a large dagger that had been hanging at his side. And as soon as I blink, the tip of the dagger is already pressed to Call's throat.
Watch your tongue!
When we're done with this ridiculous alliance, I'll cut it off and shove it down your throat. His voice was frigid as ice, and yet it doesn't seem to faze Call in the slightest. Instead, the smirk on his lips only widens, and he lifts a hand to bat away Coralt's blade with casual shrug.
Some bold words for someone so afraid of magic.
Call doesn't just dismiss Coralt with a wave of his hand. He starts walking again, giving off an air so laid back that it seems to stun the dark-haired man, who's still holding his dagger in the air. Clearly, these two have some sort of intense history together. Why is magic such a sore point for Coralt?
I've never seen anyone get Coralt so riled up.
Riz's amazed whisper comes from behind me. Beside me. You mean he's not normally like this? He shakes his head, stroking his fingers contemplatively along the stubble of his cheeks.
The boss is normally quite laid back. Ever since we've come here, though, he's been so out of sorts. Puts me on edge. I feel like there must be something unseen at play here.
With those ominous words, he falls silent, and a certain apprehension grips me as we start to walk again. Maybe he's just talking about Coralt, but I feel like there's another meaning behind his words. Especially since I've been uneasy too, ever since I came here. We walk a little further and eventually I approach Call's side. Despite the unpleasant confrontation earlier, he seems about as satisfied as a cat having trapped its prey. His expression is bright, with a complacent idle smile as he walks along. And I'm going to go ahead and end this episode here for today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to see more videos from me, then don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.